Today I put together a video of a trip that I took with my family to Hacks Canyon, which is near a tributary of the Kanab Creek area. The reason I went into this area was because I was following up on an old Spanish trail route from the Grand Canyon to the Kanab area. I have a theory that there were lesser known miners and Spanish explorers that used the other crossings of the Grand Canyon that were known only to a few of the Indian tribes. At one time, Vulcan's Throne, or the recent lava flow that occurred out around Mount Trumbull, created a dam that backed up the Colorado River for quite a ways. And this dam persisted for many years until probably either erosion or an earthquake or some kind of a large flash flood washed the dam away. We have verbal histories of the Wallapai Indians, the Havasupai Indians, and the Paiutes talking about the time when they could float across the river on a canoe or some type of a boat. It's also perhaps at this time period at which some of the underground cities or large limestone or sandstone caverns were available to easy access. It's possible that they could float their boats right up or down the canyon and right into the area where these caves were at. I think we have evidence that there's ample evidence at one time where the water level was backed up to from this volcanic occurrence. Anyway, as I was following one of these lesser known Spanish routes and doing some research, we went into Hacks Canyon to hike the trail that comes from the bottom of Hacks Canyon up out of the canyon. There's an old trail, whether it's a cowboy trail or made by the Spanish or the Indians, the natives that lived in the area. I'm sure that all three groups of people use this old trail. It was a very, very fun trail, hiking back and forth up it. There were a couple of areas that were a little bit sketchy where we had to watch our footing. There were many old rock cairns or rock piles that marked the trail, but there were two areas where it was difficult to figure out where the trail went, only because of my experience in traversing extremely rough country and knowing about where the trail went through. Was I able to find the trail, because erosion and flash flooding and stuff had washed out the trail in a couple of places. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. We saw some really neat things. I was looking for petroglyphs. I was looking for signs of the Spanish, petroglyphs made by the Spanish, glyphs made by the Spanish, or petroglyphs made by Native American groups. We did see a lot of chippings and some old grinding stones. There were a lot of deer and sheep tracks, some mountain lion tracks using the trail. And it was a very beautiful and remote area, a good time. And so anyway, this is just a quick video to show that area and talk a little bit about the history of the Spanish. The Spanish used a lot of these trails just as people today use these various trails. They have been kept alive and going by the cattlemen, by people continuing to use them, but they're ancient trails where one group of people are able to go today. Likely these trails were made by earlier groups of people in their travels back and forth. There's quite a few evidence of the basket maker Native Americans in this area. The petroglyphs further down the canyon also show signs of the Anasazi and the Fremont cultures. which I term the country people and the city people. The Fremont and the Anasazi existed at pretty much the same period of time, and the Anasazi were in larger groups and cities, and the Fremont were more nomadic groups of people. This trail ties into a previous video where I talked about the Grand Canyon Treasure Cave. This is one of the routes that would have been used to get into that area where the waybill that talks about the treasure cave near the Grand Canyon, this would have been the route that they would have used to get into this area. There is an old trail that goes down the lava flow from Vulcan's Throne, which is the cinder cone out by the north rim of the Grand Canyon, up by Toroweep. There is an old trail that weaves back and forth down to the river. I don't know, it would be a treacherous crossing today, but you could float across there if you had a well-constructed raft or boat. But I suspect that the trail there goes back to the days when there was a volcanic dike or a volcanic dam that plugged the Grand Canyon and backed the water up into a lake. It would have been a spectacular waterfall on the edge there where it went over, but it would have been a nice place for the native groups to be able to cross back and forth on the Grand Canyon. On the other side, on the south side, there's also trails that go up and that come down that show that this was once a route that was traveled. So if anybody has any more information or comments about any other known crossings of the Colorado that were used by the Native Americans, I'd be interested to hear about that. I think that there were miners and groups of people that were with the Spanish, or possibly even predated the Spanish, that knew about and used other means and methods to cross the Grand Canyon. These are some of the things that would unlock some of the mysteries and the ways in which the ancient people were able to travel back and forth to get from one side of the Grand Canyon to the other. The wild horses of the Serengeti.
Now you have to look at yourself. Yeah, that's a funny looking one.
Hey, we're making fun of the wild horses.
Pueblo house. A tiny house.
It's a rat pueblo.
Yeah. Yeah. It looks like the ones at the Anasazi Museum in Boulder. Yeah. A little. No. It's like, here lies the rat house, right next to the rock pile.
Where is it? There it is. It's a rat cave.
Is there any rats?
I don't know. You can run over and look.
I don't want to.
There's a rock pile. It's a monument lizard.
Here, I'll take that light one. Thank you, Mom.
Watch Mom coming down the slick spot. Mom's gonna jump.
Nice.
Look at.
We have a wild Anasazi Indian.
And right there we have a
And
wild
two
karaoke.
Papuskas.
Papuska.
and a squazo.
Squanto!
Squanto.
And a chief.
Chief Squanto. Water pot me.
Big Benny there.
No,
No.
you don't put it on that way.
Big Jolly there.
No, they call me horse poop.
Put it on that way.
Choo choo, choo choo. Wee, wee, wee. Be careful. I guess.
Yeah, we made it up. So far.
How far up do you think we are compared to that? Almost all the way up to the top. Almost.
We're right at the base of them rocks over there.
So peaceful. Almost there. Uranium.
There's the top.